would invite all who care to stand and join us in the recitation of the Lord's Prayer, followed by a moment of silence.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
It is now 7 o'clock. Shelby City Council meeting is called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seated, please. Roll call, please, Mr. Crum.
Mr. Robb. Mr. Roberts? Here. Mr. Gates? Here. Mr. Martin? Here. Mr. McLaughlin? Here.
I'll entertain a motion to excuse Councilmember Robb.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin to excuse Councilmember Robb. For the record, best of my memory, he's out of the country on a mission trip. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts? Here. Mr. Gates?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin? Here.
Motion to excuse passes. Now entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal from July 17, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin to dispense with the reading of the journal from July 17, 2023. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts? Here. Mr. Gates?
Here.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McLaughlin? Here.
That motion passes. Now comes the time for public comment. If anyone has public comment, they may come to the podium and state their name, address, and make their comment to council. Hearing and seeing none, we move forward to reports from standing and special committees. Community and Economic Development Committee, Councilmember McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee did meet a few hours ago. Just have 4 things to pass along to the council. If you haven't been downtown to see the new arch, it looks beautiful. So get on down there and take a look. Wednesday at 1 p.m. on the 26th, at 26 West Main, the 419 Barber Shop has their ribbon cutting. Third, the Historical Preservation Committee meets Friday at 9 a.m. And then finally, Jobs Ohio representative from the food sector is going to visit Hamline tomorrow at 9 a.m. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions for Mr. McLaughlin regarding his report? Move forward then. Public Works and General Operation Committee did not meet. Parking Committee did not meet. The Safety Committee did.
We sure did. Thank you, sir. Safety Committee met on, anyway, last Wednesday. Fire news, so the demo squad has gone from the manufacturer to the dealership. Still waiting on the graphics and mounting of the lift system. No time frame, but getting closer and closer every day. So month by month, we just keep bumping it up a little bit, and we'll have it someday. So when they say we're going to put graphics on it, I mean it's going to be ours, so they put our name on it. So good deal. We painting hydrants in Ward 1, and that'll go through August and September. They'll do a flow test on hydrants at different sites in the city in August and September. Jackson Township EMS contracts will be on the agenda tonight, and be interviewing for the open full-time position on, which would have been on the 3rd and the 8th, the first round. Have 5 applicants, and all are lateral transfers and FFII paramedics. Health news, all the safety inspections were completed. We had 33 birth certificates given out, 24 death certificates. Beth Conrad will be leaving in early September, and that she'll be retiring in January, so we'll be using PTO up until, from sometime in September till January. Area aid on aging will be given a flu and COVID shock clinic in Shelby, and the date hasn't been determined yet, but we will let you know as soon as we find out. The infectious disease report, we had 1 COVID case, 1 gonorrhea, 4 chlamydia, 4 hepatitis C. West Nile is on the rise in the state, and crazy enough, leprosy has been found in Florida. Police sergeant's test was posted, but only 1 officer signed up. That has to be a competitive test. Chief is going to talk with the Civil Service Committee, and we'll see what can be done about that. 1 former officer is coming back, and 1 conditional offer has been made. Two officers that are in the academy will be coming out soon, so that will put us, if all goes well, we will only be down to 1 officer when all that falls into place. The jail is closed due to an issue with the monitors. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilman Roberts. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Roberts in regard to his report? Mr. Martin?
An issue with what? I didn't catch that last part.
Monitors.
Monitors.
Yeah, they don't have any monitors in the jail.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Councilman Roberts. Move on to reports of city officials. We did the mayor's report. Since the last meeting, been occupied with typical mayoral duties. On July the 18th, we met together with the Shelby Healthy Coalition. We've been going here in midsummer with good plans in the future. The 20th July, the Health Department Advisory Board met, and it was with our newest member as well. On the 21st, participated in a mayoral panel discussion at a meeting of the Regional Manufacturers Coalition in Mansfield. On the 25th, I attended a public hearing in regard to the Black Fork Ditch petition. We'll say more about that later. On the 28th, I held a ribbon cutting for the Nail Nook at 10 High School Avenue in our new downtown district. On August the 1st, participated in the Richmond County United Way Day of Caring with my fellow mayors from across the county. Also presided at our Shelby City Health Department Administrative Team meeting. On the 1st, I presided over our City Planning Commission meeting. On the 5th, I attended a business after hours event. Councilman Gates was there as well, and others from the area at our very own ArcelorMittal facility here in Shelby. And then today, I joined many others in watching the Main Street Arch being put in place early this morning. This certainly adds a new dimension of beauty and attractability to our ever-evolving downtown district. And that is my report. I also have on the agenda a motion to confirm the appointment of Virgilio Thompson to the Health Department Advisory Board. This brings up to our total number of 5.
Mayor, I move to confirm your appointment.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts to confirm the appointment. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts.
Yeah.
Mr. Gates.
Yay.
Mr. Martin.
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yay.
That motion to confirm passes. Are there any comments or questions from me in regard to my report? Hearing none? Oh, my report continues on the second page. I'm sorry. We're not moving on. We have there a motion to request a liquor hearing for Jason Jackson at 63 West Main Street, first floor at and patio, Shelby, Ohio.
Move to request a hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin to request that hearing. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
Mayor, what we have before us from the Division of Liquor Control is a transfer of the license from LJR Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Legend Sports Grill and Pub, to Jason Jackson. The licenses, the permit classes are D1, D2, and D3. D1, as I best recall, is beer by the glass. D2 is wine and liquor by the glass. And D3, I believe, is the nightclub license. It'll actually be open later than normal.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts.
Nay.
Mr. Gates.
Nay.
Mr. Martin.
Nay.
Mr. McGough.
Nay.
That motion to request the liquor hearing fails. Now, are there any questions or comments? All right, moving on, move forward to the report from Mr. Brian Crum, Director of Finance.
Thank you, sir. Mostly normal operations around my departments. We do have a new hire in the income tax department. Matt Bowman started today. We're going to give him a lot of training here before Lisa retires closer to the end of the year. That way he's ready to hit the ground running. And hopefully while we're a little on the heavy staff side, I'm also going to have some of the projects that have been kind of going to the wayside, like organizing all of our record retention files and such. Get that kind of cleaned up so that it's easier to find things. Right now we've got a lot of records from finance and income tax department, people who are no longer here, and so I'd like to clean that up. We actually, there's a webinar I think that most of the staff's going to watch tomorrow on record retention. So doing that, very, very excited about that situation there. Income tax collections last month, while I don't have the number in front of me, we're a little better than, a little better than average. So I'm hoping that we'll make that $5 million mark that we had put in the revenue budget for appropriations. I don't expect we'll be over it, but I'm hoping to get there. Audit is very, very, very close to being done. I got an email today with a couple of last minute stuff that I need to do for them, so I'll get that done tomorrow. So hopefully we'll get that report to you guys very shortly. That's pretty much my report, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crum. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Crum in regard to his report? Mr. Gates.
You know, the audit being very, very close to being done, I know that it's not in the finance director's hands when that is, we get the preliminary audit from the state auditor, but I wonder if he has something a little more definitive than very, very close. Knowing that I won't hold him to that.
That's right. I would expect them to have it to me this week. They wanted to have it done at the end of July, and there were just a couple little things. So they pretty much got most of their field work done, as I understand. So,
Well, that's very encouraging.
but don't hold me to it.
Thank you. All right. Move on then to Mr. Ister, Law Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Routine business out of my office, no report.
Thank you. Mr. Geis, Project Coordinator.
Mayor, well, if you haven't heard, there's an art show. Thanks to Simonson for getting there early this morning, and no traffic got too bad. It went pretty smooth. Electrician will be in the next few days or whatever to get the electric hooked up to it. There'll also be light bulbs going on the bottom of that. And yes, it is tall enough for a semi-truck to go through. So that was brought up today several times. And also, thank our friends from, I've actually always known the two, even my father worked, Arsenal Middle, who did make the donation for that arch, and through our CIC and obviously council and so forth, so we thank them for that. There was a contingency of them, their employees down there this morning too, so it was a good morning. And also in the park, the drain lines are now done for the splash pad. You can see the fountain pads are there. They'll start working on the water lines, get everything inspected, and then start backfilling and do that too. Went pretty smooth on the drain lines. We're very happy. They did get an inspection from the state Department of Health on the drain lines, so that went smooth. Our paving program, all of the roads are now paved. We're waiting on striping and adjustments of manholes, water valves, catch basins, and so forth. And those will be happening very soon. And we did open up our South Street Storm Sewer Project. Dirt Dog excavating was a low bidder at $114,516.91. The engineer's estimate was $120,000. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Geis. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Geis in regard to his report? Mr. Gates.
Where is Dirt Dog from?
My memory serves me correctly, it's in the Belleville, Perrysville, somewhere like that.
John shaking his head, yes.
Thank you.
Sir. All righty. We'll move forward then to new business. Pavilion street numbering is on the agenda. Mr. Gates.
Mayor, this is one that I had asked to be placed on the agenda. An organization I belong to a couple years ago had a picnic at Seltzer South, and a person coming from out of town went to her GPS and tried to find it and could not. And she eventually found it. I think she found Glenwood Drive and then saw someone walking, and they directed her down to the pavilion. But a bigger concern is for all the park properties and the reservoir properties as well, is that they be numbered and that information be entered into the 911 system in the event that some kid conks his or her head at a reunion and people are trying to call and not know what to say. I shared that information with Mr. Geis. I know he had prepared a chart, and I suggested a few more places to be added on, and I'm sure he did that, and I'm sure he can tell what's happened since then.
Mr. Geis.
So I consulted with our two chiefs, and also for their record keeping too, it's not only just pavilion, we wanted addresses for bathrooms, the office, that way it's better for their statistics on where they're having calls and so forth. So we did, I did create a list of all those, all our city parks, all the pavilions, buildings, reservoirs. It is now over at Richland 901 Captain Sweat. He's just reviewing it, and I'm glad I did do that because he already did have an address for Res 3. So he's just looking those over. Once I get it back, we'll issue it, and it'll go over to the county auditor, and then, so that's how it's going to get on. The address points will be put on so someone could use their GPS for that.
Very good. Mr. Gates.
What'll be important then when that's finalized, at the county level, is that the addresses be posted on the pavilions. And so again, if you have someone from out of town at Seltzer South, I'll use it again, well, it's, they need more than just a number posted there. So that's something, if you would pass on to to Mr. Marshall, and perhaps with the street department, that they can make signs to put up there with, the complete addresses, so that, again, we know accidents happen, and people need to know exactly where they are so that they can make that call and say, such a place on South Street, such a place on Broadway,
Very good. She was kind of following the email threads on that, and there was a lot of good collaboration going on, and it was one of a great product, so thank you for bringing that to our attention, Mr. Gates. Any further new business? And now we'll move forward to unfinished business. We have a 5-4 bid petition as I mentioned, I did attend the Black Fork public hearing held over the Longview Center. There was a motion passed by both boards, and basically boiled down to this, that they, after receiving legal opinion from Mr. John Burton, that they lacked jurisdiction to legally carry out the ditch petition as written. And there were several different items listed that brought them to that conclusion that there was no legal representation or guidance in its preparation, which was true at that point under the Ohio Revised Code we were operating under at that time. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources chairman or his representative was supposed to be at the first hearing, and the first hearing was actually more like a meeting than a hearing as it was structured. All affected landowners were to sign the petition, as I understood it, whereas there were 69 that signed, there should be more like 5,905. So that's another thing was brought up. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources recommendations are in essence mandates. The word being used as shall, is that brought in a whole other dynamic of dealing with when we talk about the Indiana bat and certain life forms found in the stream and so forth. Those were not recommendations, they were shalls, which would up the price. The commissioners, they were told they were actually in that process, there's like eminent domain. You're taking something, you're taking a tree, or maybe removing a tree and taking a tree, and if something was taken incorrectly or illegally, that complaint could come forward and it would not go well for the county. And actually the petitioner, not the engineer, was to compile the parcel numbers. So a number of things like that. There's some talk now, going under a different portion of the Ohio Revised Code to try to maybe reinstitute this, or a whole other route where Richland County Soil and Water, maybe they initiate a petition and maybe do it in smaller segments with a smaller detail, primarily just removing fallen trees. Probably hasn't done years gone by, but so that we've had just a little bit of email conversation with Richland County Soil and Water. We'll see how that develops. So more to come on that in the future. But as far as the existing ditch petition that was, that is not possible. And I'm sure you read in the articles that basically point out was in those articles. Mr. Gates.
As I recall, when the petition was filed, there was a bond that was to be paid, and I think the city's portion of that was somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000. What happened there? What's the status of that?
I will find that out. Question? Yes, sir.
Just ask, has that money been returned? As I looked at
No.
the finance
No, it
record.
is not.
Yeah, whether that is refundable or not refundable, I don't know. I'm sure we'll pursue it.
Well, of course we hope it is. I fear that it's not. It would be a $10,000 mistake.
Yes, sir. I'd have a report on that on the next meeting. Any further discussion on that Black Fork ditch petition? Any other unfinished business? If not, we'll move forward then to legislation. Mr. Cron.
Ordinance number 21, 2023, repealing section 612.11, public consumption of chapter 612, alcoholic beverages of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby.
Move the third reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Martin for the third reading of ordinance number 21, 2023. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. It had been pointed out 2 meetings ago that the primary reason for this ordinance is to set in motion that the possible lease of land in the Weber Alley to Webers. That's as subsequent to the failure of the city to go through and to vacate that alley. But it was pointed out that the secondary reason for this ordinance is the creation of a DORA. And I did happen to watch the video last council meeting where I was absent, and Mr. McLaughlin made a reference to the DORA. And I wonder if he would, for the record, give some explanation as to what a DORA is.
Mr. McLaughlin.
I believe I made that in the first meeting that we discussed. This would be the outdoor refreshment area. Several cities have it around their region. And at this point, nothing is imminent in the creation of one. When we are ready to go in that direction, we will go through council and input will be encouraged.
Mr. Martin.
If I, Mr. McLaughlin doesn't mind me clarifying a little bit, but the DORA cannot be instigated from those legislators. So the city council cannot instigate the formation of a DORA. That has to be done by the mayoral office. And at the time that the mayor's office, if the mayor in office chooses to do so, there's a long list of things that have to be done to include who would be covered under the DORA, what would be operating hours, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's very, very clear. From my vantage point, just to clear it up, obviously the downtown would be probably the #1 area we would do a DORA. Just makes sense, right? There's a lot of areas we could choose, but it's obviously the largest concentration of D3 establishments. And you have to have at least, once you have to have at least 4 according to the DORA regulations. So that, but from our vantage point, obviously the VFW is downtown. We have specifically requested that the VFW not be included in the DORA or any discussions of the DORA, obviously because 2 of our council members are members of the VFW and in leadership of the VFW. So, we don't want our belonging to the VFW to interfere with what we feel is best for the city. So we requested the VFW not be included in any of the plans. As such, though, the VFW, the American Legion, Eagles, those are D4, and there's a little bit of discussion about whether D4 licensures, which is a club licensure, can be counted towards that 4 anyways. So there's further discussion that has to be done along those lines. That said, it's not worth even looking at a DORA if there's no place to actually put the DORA because this legislation is in place. And so that's why we're trying to do some preliminary work that will allow the administration to make better decisions when it comes to if they choose to provide a DORA for it. But that's why it's secondary to this, if not tertiary.
That's very helpful to have that information, I appreciate that from Mr. Martin. But, you know, again, this piece of legislation is, in effect, is joined at the hip with the door. Or I should say, the door is joined at the hip with this piece of legislation. And because there's so much information, so much detail to be worked out that we don't have here at present, I can't support this piece of legislation.
Martin?
I mean, I appreciate that belief. I don't believe that to be true. I mean, there's obviously the primary reason this legislation is before us is because of the alleyway of Weber's Alley, period. Again, you know, whenever you're making legislative decisions, there's going to be secondary and tertiary outcomes and concerns that are potentialities. But at no time in my talking to people about this legislation has it been anything but what it's primarily about, and that is being able to successfully lease property to Weber's Alley to where they can be in compliance with the law and still provide what they feel is a service to the community. So that's the primary reason. We could, in fact, put forward door legislation regardless of this being passed or not. Us passing this or not has no bearing on whether a door legislation passes. They are not, in essence, joined at the hip. Again, it's just a secondary, if not really a tertiary concern.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Nay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 21, 2023 passes its third reading.
Move the passage of the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. McLaughlin for the passage of ordinance number 21, 2023. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Nay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 21, 2023 passes its, passes.
Ordinance number 22, 2023, amending chapter 1040, water, section 1040.04, rules, regulations, and fixed charges for municipal water system, rule 41 of the codified ordinances of the city of Shelby, Ohio.
Move for third reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin, a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage on third reading of ordinance number 22, 2023. Discussions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance 22, 2023 passes its third reading.
Move the ordinance for taking passage.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Martin, and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of ordinance number 22, 2023. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Ordinance number 22, 2023 passes.
Resolution number 35, 2023, authorizing the mayor as director of public safety to enter into a fire protection contract from October 1, 2023 through December 31, 2023 with Jackson Township, Richland County, Ohio.
Move the resolution taken and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gates for the passage of resolution number 35, 2023. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
Mayor, we met about a month ago, we being yourself, the fire chief, and I, met with Jackson Township representatives and to discuss the fire contract. One of we had some non-economics that we wanted to share with the township. One, that we put the contract on calendar year instead of this October to September. I'm not sure how that's been, except it's always been. The other And so that's what this, this piece of legislation does, is it has a contract for October, November, and December of this year at the same monthly rate, same rate that they are paying currently. So if I talk any more, then I will be talking about the next piece of legislation. So that's what this is. The trustees were very, they were very happy to go with this calendar year proposal.
Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Resolution number 35, 2023 passes.
Resolution number 36, 2023, authorizing the mayor as Director of Public Safety to enter into a fire protection contract from January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2028 with Jackson Township, Richland County, Ohio.
Move the resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gates for the passage of resolution number 36, 2023. Discussion. Mr. Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. The other non-economic that we had with, regarding the fire contract was when it gets paid. Right now, the contract is paid after each year, which is somewhat odd. You know, if you think about insurance, insurance is something that gets paid up front, whether it be your auto, your homeowners, your health. This isn't really insurance, but it's akin to insurance. It's a service that they are getting, but they don't pay until after the service is over and done with. We've had some concerns about cash flow in the fire protection fund and fire equipment fund, excuse me, and I'll just note the finance director was nodding when I said that. So what we suggested and the township has readily agreed to is that they would pay, as it says in the contract, the amount will be payable in each contract year with 1/2 due on January 15th and 1/2 due on July 15th. So semi-annual payments, you know, give or take 15 days, you know, at the beginning. So this will make things much easier as far as cash flow for the city. You can see the amount we're starting with in January 2024 would be $125,000. That is very roughly the cost to the city of any full-time employee when you factor in their wages, their salary, their benefit, their insurance, and pension. And so that's where that figure came from. And I believe, I'll look out the chief, I believe it's 3% increase each year, and the chief is nodding on that. So that is where that figure came from. This year they are paying, and I think it's around 70,000. Again, I looked at the chief.
651.81.
Again, please.
$72,651.81.
So from 72,000 and some change to $125,000. So that's a significant increase. So that's a good thing. We met but one time with representatives of the township. They took it back and readily agreed, and that's where we are here today. So I could go on and on about what I consider the fair share that each township should pay. Bless their hearts, this is nowhere near what I calculate should be a fair share. It should be about $375,000 a year, but that's be that as it may. But much improved as far as actual dollars, and with our two non-economic issues, which they readily accepted, you know, this is a contract I can support. Obviously, my name's there as a sponsor of the legislation, so this is a good thing.
Any further discussion? I do want to say a thank you to Councilman Gates and Chief Thompson for shepherding this through. We came to the table well prepared, documentation of what the needs were, and I again, I think we're in a lot better position than we were just a few months ago in collecting for this fire equipment fund. So thank you both, Councilman Gates and Chief Thompson.
Very, very well.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts? Yay. Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Resolution number 36, 2023 passes.
Resolution number 37, 2023, directing the Richland County Board of Elections to conduct an election on Tuesday, November 7, 2023, with regard to whether a 2 1/2% income tax for the purpose of providing funds for the Shelby Fire Department and declaring an emergency.
Move the resolution be taken up and passed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Roberts for the passage of resolution number 37, 2023. Discussion? Mr. Gates.
Here, obviously, this is a follow-up to the ordinance that council had passed to go to the voters. I read through this, and I'm looking at, let's just look at the title. We've got that parenthetical, 1/4% income tax. I think we all understand what 1/4% means. But when we look at the words, 2 1/2%, that seems awkward to me. If it's 1/4%, which is what the numbers are, and that's what our intent is, I would think that that's what the word should be. I'm afraid that someone would hear that and hear 2% and not 1/4%. And I tried to make sense of the words without the parenthetical. 2 1/2%, and I came up with 2.05%. That's not what we want. But we know, at least I learned in business law from Mr. Markin years ago, when there's a discrepancy between the words and the numbers, it's the words that govern. That's why I'm your check, for those of us who still write checks. So with that, I'm going to ask unanimous consent that the phrase 2 1/2% throughout this piece of legislation be changed to 1/4%.
And that would be spelled out, correct?
Yes. The
The words
words be
1/4%.
replaced, the words 2 1/2% be replaced with the words 1/4%. And I see that in the title, in the second whereas paragraph, in section 1, and in section 2.
All right, has everyone heard clearly by unanimous consent to change the words 2 1/2% to the words, strike those and replace with the words 1/4% throughout the legislation, whether it's the header or section 1 or section 2, or maybe someplace else we missed it here, but that is the intent. Are there any objections? All right, hearing no objections, those changes will be made. Thank you. Any further, Mr. Geis?
Just so Mr. Extra knows, this does have to be at the Board of Elections by the end of day Wednesday.
No problem.
Oh, that's what we like to hear. Maria?
I think she's back from vacation.
She is back.
And it will be the clerk of council who delivers that to the Board of Elections.
We will see to it.
They'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Wednesday, for sure.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Martin?
Yay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yay.
Resolution number 37, 2023 passes. Now come to miscellaneous businesses. Any miscellaneous business to be brought before council this evening? Mr. Gates.
Mayor, on my trip to Vermont, Monday night, a couple of weeks ago, I attended the select board meeting in Bristol, Vermont. And I introduced myself and told what I do, and one of the select persons said, and this is what you do on your vacation. But it was interesting, they're dealing with the same issues that we're dealing. Fire equipment, street equipment, EV stations, ARPA funds. So, you know, wherever you go, it seems that governments are dealing with the same issues.
Yeah. Interesting observation. Mr. Gates.
And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Martin for adjournment. Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Mr. Gates?
Yeah.
Mr. Martin? Mr. McLaughlin?
Motion passes, council adjourns at 7:45.
I will not use those for
I haven't read them yet.
So I'm gonna pass it on to.
But some of that stuff's negotiable, so it's like, what do you want us to do?
You're gonna get some.